Tonight, thousands of Ukrainians are leaving the country after Russian troops moved into Ukraine over the course of the last 24 hours. The White House taking action with tougher sanctions as President Biden is working to coordinate a response with other world leaders. President Biden condemning Russian President Vladimir Putin's actions while announcing the deployment of more U.S. troops to Germany to bolster NATO's defenses.
Ukraine's government is reporting mounting casualties and lost ground, including the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. So this comes as a source tells Fox 40 Russia is going to launch a full-blown assault on Kiev, including airstrikes, paratroopers, and tanks tonight or tomorrow. The UN Security Council will meet tomorrow to vote on a resolution that would condemn Russia's military aggression in the strongest of terms. It also would demand an immediate halt to Russia's invasion and the withdrawal of all the Russian troops. So let's get reaction to this conflict happening in Ukraine and also the president's remarks today and the sanctions. Joining us now live during our show tonight, we have our political experts on the Republican side, Tim Rosales, on the Democratic side, Ed Emerson. Guys, so happy to talk to you tonight. Thanks for giving us some time.
Absolutely, Nikki.
Okay, Ed, I want to start with you since you are the Democrat at this virtual table. Hopefully sometime soon we'll be back at this table in the studio very, very soon. But I want to ask you about the president's remarks today when he announced the sanctions. You know, he came out very strong and said Putin is the aggressor and this is Putin's war. Do you think he handled the day appropriately, and do you think that the punishment was strong enough?
Well, you know, there's a lot of people going to second guess whether or not they're strong enough. Economic sanctions are going to take time to have the desired effect. I thought he struck a great tone. I mean, we have gone from deterrence, which obviously didn't work, but to punishment now of the Russian economy, and we're going to beat them into submission. This will work. We will not put American troops on the ground unless absolutely necessary. But we're going to beat these guys back across the border and back into Russia. Putin is going to pay a huge price for this, and deservedly so. I mean, the questions in my mind right now, first, two quick things, Nikki. One is kudos to the reporters in Kiev and in other places in the Ukraine. So we know in real time, we have a visual of what's going on. And then kudos to the American intelligence services for great intel. We have matched Putin every footstep, and we know what he's up to. The problem is with a madman, a totalitarian dictator, is you don't know what's normal and what's not normal. In his mind, this all made sense, and we need to stop it. The NATO alliance has come together really strongly. The president, I think, has done a good job of putting all that together. We're showing a unified front across the board, and these sanctions are going to have a devastating effect on Russia and on the Russian economy and on Vladimir Putin.
Tim, I want to get your reaction as well, because we heard last night that the president was going to lay out new sanctions and they were going to be the most severe we've ever seen. But he stopped short of personally sanctioning Putin. He was asked that a couple of times during the press conference today.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, you know, Monday morning quarterbacking at this point is easy. And I think there's going to be a lot of people that do it. But looking ahead, I think, is what's important. And right now, we've got a very dire situation going on in the Ukraine, Ukraine, who is an ally to the United States. And we need to focus on how to stop this Russian aggression, this war that Vladimir Putin is waging. Putin has protests going on in his own country. Russians are protesting against the war. I would imagine 80 to 90%, maybe even more, of Russian soldiers don't want to be in the Ukraine. This is going to be make or break for the Putin regime. And so I think what we need to do now is keep our foot on the gas. I think we need to go what the president did with sanctions, go further with economic sanctions when the time is appropriate. Certainly, I think that the United States wants to, in situations like this, and as Ed mentioned, put on a unified front because we are unified. There's nothing that consolidates and binds the United States quicker than taking on the Russians or the old Soviet Union or a dictator like Vladimir Putin. And that's something that right now I think really is critical that the world geopolitics, not only the United States, France, United Kingdom, Italy, Germany, all the members of NATO that the president mentioned today, in addition to other countries like Japan, other G7 countries, countries that have big economic footprints, that their support and their alliance with the Ukraine right now is critical so that we can cut off. Russia is not an economic powerhouse. They need the Ukraine. They need the ports in Odessa and on the Black Sea. They need to have the resources that the Ukraine has. And Russia can be, and Putin can be crippled very, if we put our mind to it, and I think and are disciplined and present a united front like I think we're doing.
And this isn't just going to be a one-off either. I mean, as we're speaking right now, we're getting reports out of Kiev, that there are, that they're seeing more attacks as we speak. Do you think it's important for the president to continue to engage with the American people so they know what's going on and not just hearing it from news reports, hearing from the commander-in-chief?
Right, absolutely. The price of gas is going to go up. There's no question about it. I mean, are we willing to pay a higher price for gas here in the United States to support a democracy in the Ukraine? And I believe the answer is yes. ExxonMobil, just as an aside, made $28 billion last year. And believe me, that profit has something to do with the price of gas. Regardless, Russia supplies quite a good bit of energy to the United States and to Europe. I think sacrifices are going to have to be made, and I think they're worth making. I think democracy versus totalitarianism versus a dictatorship. This is a choice between two models of government, and democracy is not a failed project. We win. We are the good guys, and Putin is the bad guy. I mean, I hate to put it in such simplistic terms, but this guy has got nothing but himself. He's lined his pockets. He's lined the pockets of his friend in Russia, and his remarks before the invasion were bizarre. I mean, he is absolutely.
He was calling Zelensky a Nazi, I believe. He's Jewish.
Controlled by Nazism. In the Ukraine, which is totally false.
Yep.
And that being said, you mentioned, did you want to weigh in, Tim? Sorry, I want to give you the chance to.
No, I was just going to say, I think Ed's absolutely right, and it gives the opportunity for the United States also in terms of domestic policy and how it engages both domestically and also in the world to rethink some of our proposals on energy independence, the Keystone oil pipeline, being able to take, instead of rewarding bad actors like Russia, like China and others who are gross polluters, by the way, instead of rewarding them, what we need to do is we need to put our thumb on the scale and start to leverage the power of the United States, particularly when it comes to energy and the energy resources we have here in our country.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about unity and how situations like this can unite the country and bring both Democrats and Republicans together. I'm going to kind of throw a little bit of a wet blanket on that for a minute because we are in an election year. And, this is going to be a test. We know the midterms, during the first couple of years of a new president is usually a referendum on that president. And you mentioned high gas prices. Tim, I want to ask you this. I mean, when it comes to those pocketbook, kitchen table issues, I mean, is Putin enough of a foe for people to say, like Ed said, I don't mind paying a little bit more at the pump if my gas prices are higher, because they're going to want to blame Joe Biden for that?
Yeah, well, the answer to that is they don't necessarily have to be higher at the pump. We have to look at, again, our domestic policy here at home, the taxes that we've placed on gasoline and energy products, the fact that we import billions of barrels of oil and billions of dollars worth of energy from countries like Russia and countries like Saudi Arabia. Why don't we sit there and take the power away from those countries, right? and build these jobs here in the United States? We've got sources of energy. We can do it cleaner than they can. We can do it better than they can. And it also gives us, I think, an advantage in terms of our position in the world, and also disadvantages dictators like Vladimir Putin and others who use the resources that they do have, the oil and those items, in order to hold the world hostage during times like this. We need to take that power away from them. So in terms of the domestic policy changes that we can make here at home, I think those are going to be the things that, because that matters to individuals as they sit around their kitchen table, those are the things that are really going to weigh in this election in 2022 as voters decide.
Yeah, Ed, he can just, parrot off of that and say, look, build back better. We got to do it here.
Absolutely. And I agree with Tim on most everything, it seems like. I think the issue right now is a unified front. And I watched Fox News today, Fox Network News today, and their coverage from Ukraine was outstanding. They have reporters in all these different little cities around the Ukraine with explosions going off in the background. The next couple of weeks are going to be crucial to showing this unified front and a unified NATO in Eastern Europe there. And I think that the elections be damned. I mean, I've never said that in my life, but I think right now is put our shoulder to the grindstone and push forward. And if you can't bring yourself to get 100% behind Joe Biden, at least lay off of him for just a couple of weeks, because I think we can beat this guy, and I think the Ukrainians are ready to fight, and I think the Russians are going to have a lot more trouble than they thought.
Tim, I mean, President Biden's, this isn't the first time that, Putin has stepped over the line. He's done it a couple of times before, annexing Crimea.
Right.
We know what happened with Georgia. At some point, we're going to have to step up. We, meaning America and our administration, is going to have to step up, and there's going to have to be some weight behind our word.
Right.
Well, I think absolutely. And the fact is Vladimir Putin is intent on bringing back the Russian Empire. And he is fixated on control and bringing that, not just the old Soviet Union, but the old Russian Empire, I think. And that really is what his mark on history, what he wants his mark on history to be. And the fact is that you have dictators like this, that they can't help themselves and they overstep because they want more and more and more. And we've seen that throughout history. You name a dictator and you can see the point where they overstepped. And this is the point where I think Vladimir Putin is overstepping, and the world is going to react, and they're going to put a check on him. It may not be in the next day or so, because Russia does have the advantage militarily when it comes to the Ukraine. But I think over the long term, that is going to be the beginning of the downfall. It can be the beginning of the downfall of Vladimir Putin. And I think what we all need to do is just kind of keep the phrase in mind of just beat Russia. And that's really what our goal needs to be right now, not just in the US, but worldwide goal, which is beat Russia. They're not our friends, never have been our friends, never will be our friends. The Russian government, by the way, not the Russian people, but the Russian government.
Hang on Tim Schott for a second, guys. Can we go back to Tim Schott, because we're well beyond what the man in those pictures behind you in your office right now said back in the day. Guys, can we take Tim Schott? Trust but verify. We're not there right now. There we go. You can see former President Reagan there. That's not. We're way beyond that when it comes to Vladimir Putin.
Oh, well, absolutely.
Interesting thing, one of the members of the Ukrainian government said today is that war criminals go straight to hell. And Vladimir Putin's got a place all set for him when we finally get around to taking care of real business. SEAL Team 6, baby.
All right, so I want to close here with this with both of you guys. We obviously, everything over the past couple of years has been the pandemic and strictly identity politics, and Republicans and Democrats fight about masks and school mandates. And do you think, though, that we're kind of turning the corner, and this conflict in a way is allowing the American people to sort of be engaged, and people in Congress to sort of, kind of put their differences aside? Because I was seeing some reaction from, House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, Ted Cruz, and a lot of what they were saying in reaction to what's happening in Ukraine. I mean, if I covered up the name on Twitter, you might not know if it was a D or an R.
Right on. Yep. Yeah, no, I don't see us turning a corner, Nikki, because we're going to go right back to fighting once we settle this issue in Russia. But I will say that I was very encouraged by what I saw today on the news is that people are ready to get along. And can we turn a corner? Absolutely. Is this the corner that we're going to turn? I would say I'm not sure, but I believe in this country, and I believe in the democracy as a system of government that gets the best and the brightest out and out in front, and medical breakthroughs, science breakthroughs, astronauts. All the stuff that the United States does just on the natural. We're an extraordinary country, and we're going to bring Putin to heel on this thing. I'm sure of it.
Tim, final words from you.
I couldn't agree more. On the domestic stuff, yeah, we're going to argue, and we should continue to argue, and we should continue to have debates about domestic policy. Those things are important. But it used to be where American politics, internal politics, stopped at the water's edge. At the oceans, and when you cross those oceans, that was you had one flag on your shoulder, and and the troops in the boats in World War II, didn't matter if you were from the Midwest, didn't matter if you were a tough kid from the Bronx, didn't matter if you were from a Hispanic kid from LA. Everybody had that American flag on their shoulder, and any politics or that you had stopped there. And you went out and you brought freedom and liberty throughout the world, and that was that's been the American mission for as long as we've been in existence. And I think right now it's very important that we keep that kind of at the forefront of our minds.
Perfect note to end on.
Couldn't
Tim
agree more.
Rosales, Ed Emerson, always appreciate the respectful discussion. Hope to do it again very soon. We've been on a little bit of a hiatus, but we're going to change that.
All right. Thank you.
Great to talk to you guys. Thanks.
All right.
Thanks, Tim, very much.
Thank you, Ed. Take care.